Welcome back to PvZ Fusion, the PvZ game home to some of the most terrifying plants ever conceived. And also anime girls for some reason. Today's video is a bit of a throwback. A month ago I made a video trying to beat this game's adventure mode with only sunflowers, and I had a lot of fun. All the sun production gives a ton of freedom, so today we're trying the same challenge, but this time in Odyssey. And yes, it's time to celebrate because I finally remembered to add the rules into a video. I know. Crazy for a challenge runner to have rules. The rules are as follows. Only sunflowers and their fusions are allowed. Any Odyssey fusion that includes at least one sunflower is allowed. We are allowed to create non-sunflower fusions as long as they don't get any value, i.e. getting bitten by a zombie or dealing damage. An exception is made for the freeze made from fusing Gatling Snow Pea. When fused, it'll freeze the entire screen just like an ice shroom. This is allowed because I can't really prevent it from doing stuff. Lily Pad and Flower Pot are both allowed and confused with whatever they want. The game will also be played on Odyssey Purgatory, which is the Odyssey mode that constantly has zombies get new modifiers at the end of every round, alongside you. Oh, and also, make sure to like and subscribe and everything like that. I don't know. You should kind of say these things in videos. I don't really. Yeah, let's just start the video. So we're playing Odyssey Purgatory today, which I didn't choose it for any real reason. I just wanted it to be extra difficult, and well, it was. So that's nice. We aren't playing with the curse on because my blind ass didn't see it. But trust me, this is far from easy either way, and I'm kind of glad I didn't put the curse on. Starting off, round 1 is almost always just a setup round. The only zombies are the 3 basic variants, Brown Coat, Conehead, and Buckethead, along with Giga Mecha Nuts, which, while annoying, they aren't too strong on their own. The main strategy I had going into this was to use Sun Cabbage early on, before we unlocked Gatling Solar Ice Shroom, which would then carry us until we could unlock Helios Cabbage, which is one of the strongest epic Odyssey fusions in general. And that would carry us until the end game. One slight problem though, Sun Cabbage sucks. Like, really sucks. I've never seen a worse plant, and I've done a lot of these runs right now. I never really understood the hate for Cabbage Pult until the challenge run came about, and oh my god, it sucks. Like, 3 of these guys can barely handle a Conehead. It got so bad, I even went to the wiki to see if maybe there was some secret system I was missing. But no, these guys just can't do fuck all in Odyssey. It's fine though, because we do have 2 Odyssey fusions out of the gate. Radiant Pot and Twin Solar Nut. I don't want to spoil too much, but this run made me kind of fall in love with Twin Solar Nut, honestly, and he might be one of my favorite plants of all time now. Radiant Pot is also really important. Helios Cabbage, the epic Odyssey fusion between Sun Cabbage and Golden Cabbage, can use coins to summon the sun. Handy, right? And the only sunflower fusion to produce coins is Radiant Pot, so I make sure to start getting them down as soon as possible. I won't do a full explanation of how the coin system works in PvZ Fusion, but here's a quick summary. So basically, plants that fuse with marigold can be fed gold coins, and in exchange will do a special effect. Think of it as being similar to plant food in PvZ2. This effect can be repeated when they're golden for the same cost. The reason this is important is because of how Radiant Pot works. It needs a gold pot and a sun pot to be fused. Gold pots price doubles every time you upgrade one. For example, the first costs 1,000, the second costs 2,000, third costs 4,000, and so on. This means at most, we can have about 6 Radiant Pots before they start to cost too much to produce. Now there is a modifier that caps the cost at 8,000 coins, but to be honest, by the time I could get this, it was kind of pointless. This run heavily relies on modifiers. Twin Solar Nut, Helios Cabbage, and Solar Ice Shroom all need modifiers to exist and get value. So I couldn't really waste one on pot. But I digress. Radiant Pots are important to Helios Cabbage, being good, so we have to get as many as we can early on to start producing coins. Twin Solar Nuts help increase our sun while also shielding us and provided much needed burst damage with their bowling balls. I'll explain those in a little bit. Round 2 is very similar to round 1, but Pole Vaulters are incredibly strong as always. I think Pole Vaulter might be the most underrated zombie, honestly. They have a crazy speed stat, a decently powerful special ability, and more health than a Brown Coat. And because of that extra speed, more effective health than a Conehead as well. And these are the first special zombies ever introduced in PvZ. Thankfully, in this run, sun is everywhere, so replacing a few plants is child's play. During round 2, I built up a second layer of twin solar nuts, which will be vital to stopping cherry shooters in the future, and it also helps with the pole vaulters in this round. At the end of round 2, we unlocked the Gatling Solar Ice Shroom, which has a really annoying fusion recipe: 3 puff shrooms at Gatling Pea in an ice shroom, and then we add a sunflower to change them into solar ice shrooms. Problem with this recipe is that if the snow pea attacks even one zombie, the challenge is ruined, so we can only really fuse these at the end or beginnings of levels. This means we're still heavily reliant on Twin Solar Nut for burst damage against the Trident zombies and cherry newspapers. Speaking of, round 3 introduces both of those threats to us, so, lucky us, right? Cherry newspaper is normally the biggest hurdle in runs, and while he still remains a big threat, he's far from as bad as he normally is. Twin Solar Nut once again proves its worth, not only blocking their projectiles, but killing them quickly by spawning walnuts to run them over. It's important to note that because of fusion being a little bit buggy, some of the projectiles can phase through the Twin Solar Nut when it's being eaten by the newspaper. That's why we have 2 columns of them to catch anything that slips by. This also helps us later on with dancing pole vaulter zombies, but we'll talk about them in a moment. Overall, the daytime is easy, and it's kinda meant to be. It's the prep phase before Odyssey gets really crazy. The night is where Odyssey really ramps up in difficulty. This is where we finally meet Michael Zombie and his pole vaulter backup dancers of doom, or I don't know what the fuck they're called. Anyways, they're incredibly dangerous, but thankfully we unlocked Helios Cabbage at the end of round 3. This works as a fantastic counter to Michael Zombies, and later on, Jackson Worldwide. Mostly because they don't have a pierce limit, so they just melt everything on screen, and there's sometimes hundreds of these pole vaulters on screen. So that's pretty good, yeah. So I want to go in depth a little bit on Odyssey Purgatory's gimmick. Every time you get a modifier, the zombies also get one that you have to choose. You can't skip it, and it shares the rerolls with your other modifiers. So you have to carefully manage. If you, say you use all your rerolls trying to get a good modifier, well, now you're forced to pick one of these 4 ones that could all be equally as bad, which adds a lot of depth and planning ahead you have to do for this game mode. Now, some of these aren't actually all that bad. It'll increase the zombie cap, which doesn't really matter with Helios Cabbage. And then there's some that are just a little bit stronger, the Abyssal Gargantua spawning Dr. Zomboss on death. I don't know how that's possible. I don't know how you could ever beat that. What? What? How would you ever even attempt to beat that? Anyways, yeah. Some of them are easy, some of them are hard. All of them still make my life worse. So every once in a while, we're also forced to add a mini-boss into the mix, which will appear on the last stage of each world during both flags. Of these mini-bosses, there are only a select few we can beat. Giga Football Striker is the first one I picked. He's actually a really scary threat, even though he doesn't seem to be at first. His damage multiplies up to 1 million while eating a plant, and he heals himself. However, Twin Solar Nut completely counters his damage ramp up because of its unique property, which reduces all damage it takes down to 50. And then later 10 when it gets its modifier. This doesn't stop him from being crushed by Gargs or Zombonis, but he's still really strong, but not nearly to the level of Obsidian, Tall Nut, or anything. Anyways, back to the run itself. Round 4 is pretty difficult, for some of the wrong reasons. Trying to fuse Odyssey plants in these challenges is always difficult, because if, for whatever reason, one of the plants I'm trying to fuse deal damage, I have to restart that round. This makes fusing something like Helios Cabbage a nightmare, because Golden Cabbage attacks every zombie on screen with its coin effect. But aside from that, Solar Ice Shrooms are also really hard to fuse. Anyways, the level is pretty easy. Nothing really happens in round 5, so I'll skip right to round 6. This is where Giga Football Striker makes his first appearance, and he's kind of a joke right now. As mentioned earlier, Twin Solar Nut counters almost any zombie that relies on biting, so there's not much to say about this. We beat him easily enough, and then at the end of round 6, we get to pick another modifier. The modifier I pick here is the Gloves cooldown modifier, which it isn't very flashy or doesn't seem very strong, but it makes managing plants way easier, which makes fusing a lot of the Odyssey fusions infinitely easier. We're also forced to pick another mini-boss here. Now, to be entirely upfront, I've never fought most of these bosses. But I do know that Queen Jill in the box isn't even close to being possible. The Archduke I've only ever fought in the minigames, and I know for a fact he's a bitch. And while I've never fought Professor Cherries, I know for a fact he's going to crush my walnuts and then blow up everything else. Knowing all this, I choose Jackson Worldwide, which, while he is strong and very annoying, he isn't nearly as overwhelming as the other bosses we could have chosen. All that being said, while the night is more difficult than the daytime, it's not by a huge margin. Starting on round 7, we're in the pool now. Now, as many of you know, Zombarine is my arch enemy, my everlasting rival, the Vegeta to my Goku, the Uryu to my Ichigo, the IRS to my Mr. Beast. And in this run, as always, they continue that by crushing my twin solar nuts. I was getting worried at this point. Until I remember that a god does not fear death, and that applies to twin solar nut as well. So I purposely let the first of them die, while focusing on keeping the back row alive, using their ability to throw bowling balls to constantly kill all the Zombonis and Zombarines. This is actually a super effective strategy, and I didn't really touch on it earlier, but it works really well on killing cherry newspapers too, because the bowling ball tanks damage for the walnut while it's rolling. Yeah, so despite this does cost a lot of sun, so we do have a few minor sun shortages throughout the run, but we managed to pull through. There's not much more to say about the pool this time around, but I will talk about Jackson Worldwide a little bit here. The abilities he has aren't really that scary on their own, but what is scary is his naturally high health and ability to crush plants. Twin Solar Nut completely gets run over by him, and he usually takes way too long to kill normally. So to deal with him, we just crush him with a gigantic walnut. On to World 4 and Round 10. As usual, World 4 is very annoying. Clover and Sunflower now have a fusion that can get rid of fog. But this doesn't completely put us in the clear just yet. Helios Cabbage does provide a good counter to Prospector zombies, but we still have one major threat in this world we have to deal with, which is the Whale Rider Explodo Shooter zombie. For some reason, these things get a million special traits. They can jump over plants like Whale Rider, they fire Explodo Peas like Cherry Shooter, and they don't just fire one or two, they fire a billion of these things. Thankfully, there is a strategy we can use to kill them. If we just roll a bowling ball at them whenever we see one spawn, they'll always die before they can cause any trouble. This is where Twin Solar Nut really begins to shine. Beforehand, he was still really useful, but this is where he single-handedly saved the run. Like, I have no doubt we wouldn't have been able to beat it if not for him. At the end of round 10, we get the final Helios Cabbage modifier, which ensures even more damage is dealt. And now that we have virtually infinite money, we can spam the mini-sun attack whenever we need it. Not much happens in this world. Zombarines are still an issue, and the two mini-bosses still prove to be annoying, but aside from that, we're not really in that bad of a spot. So we're onto the roof, or whatever this place is. It's not curved like the roof. Anyways, on the roof, we run into our biggest enemy. It's actually an enemy we've been dealing with this whole run. An invisible enemy. Lag. The lag in Odyssey is already really bad, but this entire run is spawning hundreds of these little tiny sun particles. Not to mention the sun waves hitting the board from Helios Cabbage and the bowling balls rolling around, then mix in Michael Zombie and his tsunami of dancing pole vaulters, and we're in for a really bad time. Like, I almost just gave up on this run because of the lag. My computer was smoldering. At the end of round 12 though, I misclicked and accidentally chose the Sky Strider mech boss, which quickly proved impossible to beat. The Giga Football Striker's buffs, alongside the fact that it starts to fly halfway through its health bar, ensures that we can't stop it, not even a little bit. Not that I could even really try. The lag would get so bad at this point of the level that my computer started pretending to be the sun itself, no doubt attempting to appease the sun god that was cruelly destroying my game. So, I gave up. I hung up my limited edition sunflower hat, and I went home. Downtrodden and annoyed at myself, I decided to just play Odyssey Rush instead. I could do a whole challenge run in that mode instead and play it off as if that was always my intention. But it didn't feel right. Felt like I was cheating, just playing an easier mode purely out of laziness. But it was at this point during my rush run, I realized something. Twin Solar Nut, he wasn't at his full power yet. Once you unlock both of its modifiers, it unlocks a second form, the Epic Twin Solar Nut, which is created after unlocking the two modifiers and planting another walnut on top of it. This fusion creates a massive solar nut to bowl with automatically, not requiring any micromanaging. This massive walnut tears apart anything in its path, and even better, that isn't all. If you click on him, he'll summon 3 solar nuts in front of him and in the 2 lanes beside him, launching them all forward to clear most of the lanes on screen. Not only did this mean I could beat Rush easily, but afterwards, I returned to Purgatory, ready to show the world that I wasn't a coward, that I wasn't going to just give up. Using my newfound friend's power, I destroyed the rest of the worlds. Not just the daytime roof, but the dusk and nighttime variants too. Nothing was capable of stopping me and the Twin Solar Nut. The few flying zombies that my Twin Solar Nut couldn't hit flew too close to the sun, and much like Icarus, paid the price and were turned to ashes. And just like that, the run was over. While I was recording this run, I was under a lot of pressure in my life, and when I thought I'd failed at the end, I was really beat up, wondering if I should even keep up with these videos. I know it sounds a little silly. This is a goofy cartoon game about blowing up zombies, but I really did feel like that, like I was messing things up. But after overcoming a challenge like this, I was really proud of myself, and it reminded me a lot of why I enjoy making these videos so much. Anyways, enough of the stupid lore dump. I really enjoyed this challenge, and I hope you guys did too. I know it's a little later, and video uploads are probably going to be a little later in general, because I want to put more effort into them, and I want to take my time. I don't want to make a video if I'm not having fun, and sometimes that happens. So, with all that said, I hope you like and subscribe and do all the other YouTuber stuff you don't have to, you should do, you shouldn't, whatever, you get the idea. I hope you enjoyed the video. Yeah, I'll see you soon, next week, 2 weeks, yep, I'll figure it out. Oh, and I do want to address one thing. I am going to start live streaming these challenges, but it probably won't be for another month or 2, so yeah. That's it, actually. I don't. There's a silly segment at the end, like there always is. Just go watch that. Ignore. All right, so I don't want to use a government government logo in my video. I don't want to go to jail. Whatever the Americans will do to me. So I'm going to make my own IRS logo. That's hopefully distinct enough that they can't arrest me. Yeah, so we got this. So we'll follow the template, obviously. All good art takes inspiration from from each other. Yeah. Wait. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're really cooking with gas now. I'm not sure why the logo looks like this on it. And then so bad at drawing S's, holy Christ. Let me find one that is transparent. this here. Yeah, this something to be a little bit away. Perfect. Behold my own IRS logo. That's the logo. This asshole over here. What did I do? Perfect. Good luck suing me now, idiots. You'll never get me.